Hope is not gone. It's right here. It's within our reach. Hello, and welcome to Amazing by Design. This is the time in our week where we pause and we come together to have a conversation about what it looks like when our faith meets real life. Today, we're jumping right in. So grab your coffee or your tea and let's get this conversation started. All around the world, people are saying the same thing. Life is changing before our very eyes in unprecedented ways. The familiar is being shaken, and evil seems to be rising its ugly head in ways we never imagined. Things we once thought of as normal now feel uncertain. We used to assume women would always be women and men would always be men. We believed that marriage would remain between a man and a woman, and that children would be raised in a home with both parents, one male and one female. We thought wars could be avoided and conflicts settled peacefully. Even in politics, whether we're Republican or Democrat, there was still a shared sense of being Americans. And in the church, whether we're Baptist, Protestant, Catholic, or any other aspect of how we choose to worship, there was a common love and reverence for God. But looking at the world today, in all of those areas, nothing feels normal. Nothing seems as it should be. Change appears to be everywhere. I've been praying diligently about this, asking the Lord to give me His perspective on the rapid changes we see in the world. And I must admit, I was surprised by His response. He didn't answer me with a statement. He answered me with a question. This is what I heard. Has everything really changed? This question caught me off guard. So I began to plead my case, listing all the ways life has been altered, much like I did just a few minutes ago. And in my spirit, I could almost see God smiling. Once again, I heard, has everything really changed? So I sat quietly and thought about it. As I ran through my long list of what I believed had changed, it suddenly hit me. I realized why God was asking me that question. Looking back through history, I saw it clearly. Seasons of mass chaos have always existed. Wars, political upheaval, social turmoil, deadly diseases, economic collapse. All of these have filled the pages of history, and each one in its own way altered the atmosphere of its time, much like it is today. And yet, nothing has really changed. Let me explain. As I opened my spirit to hear God's voice, what He said actually brought tears to my eyes. So I want you to pause and really take this in, because this is what He said to me. I am still God. I will never leave you or forsake you. In that very moment, as the tears rolled down my cheeks, I realized the truth. Nothing has really changed. Unshaken and unchanging, that is who our God is. From generation to generation, He has guided His people through chaos and uncertainty. And every time, as they've surrendered to His lordship, He showed Himself faithful in the details of their everyday lives. God is moving today just as He always has. But the question remains, do we truly believe this? What would happen if we stopped fixating on the brokenness around us and instead fixed our hearts on His presence. If we do that, we will see the truth. Hope is not gone. It's right here. It's within our reach. As the seasons change, summer coming into fall, fall will change into winter, winter into spring, and then back again to summer. I'm choosing in this moment to focus on what has not changed and what will never change. And that is God Himself. His love compelled Him to send a perfect gift into an imperfect world, a gift that represents all that is unshakable and eternal. God's love is real. So I want to invite you to embrace a new perspective with me. When we think about it, we could all use an attitude adjustment because everywhere we look, there is evil, there is fear, and there is doom and gloom. But it's time to make a shift. If we want to show up as our highest, greatest selves, we must stay grounded in the one who created us, in His love, His joy, His peace, and His hope. And we need not only receive these gifts for ourselves, but we need to carry them into our everyday lives as a witness to what's possible. Can we agree to shift our focus from the natural to the eternal? God's word tells us not to be afraid. So the challenge before us is this: has everything really changed? For us as Christians, with an eternal perspective, the answer is no. Nothing has changed. God is still on His throne. He's not worried, and He doesn't slumber or sleep, and His will shall come to pass. Think about it. We already know the end of the story. Good will triumph over evil. Remembering the battle is not against people versus people. It's about the kingdom of light overcoming the kingdom of darkness. Yes, the battle is intensifying in the natural world that we live in. But as Christ followers, we have a choice. We can continue to sit back and fall into the traps of the enemy and forfeit our God-given position of victory. Or we can rise up and fight as the victorious warriors we were always created to be. I, for one, am tired of watching Christians wear their faith like a badge of honor, rather than wielding it as the weapon it was designed to be. Christianity was never meant to be a label that makes us feel righteous. It has always been a symbol of strength, power, and impact. For far too long, we've chosen to sit back and allow the enemies to destroy our families, our communities, and the beautiful world around us. And now our children and our grandchildren and the generations to come are suffering the consequences of that compromise. They're having to go to school under the threat of shootings. They are facing confusion in the most basic areas of life. Even in something as simple as having a girl's bathroom be just for girls, or a boy's bathroom be just for boys. Young women athletes who have trained and sacrificed are being forced to compete against biological men claiming to be women. This is happening because we have not stood in our rightful position of authority. But when I look at Jesus, I see a different example. When He walked the earth, He did not tolerate nonsense. He stood up against it, even if it meant turning over the tables in the temple courtyard. He never backed down. Because you are listening to this podcast, I believe you are a woman of God who is ready to rise and let her light shine. You are someone who is ready to say, enough is enough. Satan, you can't have my family, my marriage, my children or grandchildren, my finances, my community, or my nation. You and I were created to be strong warriors, equipped for battle. Now is the time for us to join forces and break down the divides. The women who are being drawn to this podcast come from many different denominations. And I applaud each of you for standing up and refusing to hide behind the banner of a religious label. It doesn't matter where you choose to worship. What matters is this: you and I are followers of Jesus Christ. And together, we can decide to link arms, stand unified, and make an impact in our world. We can take back what the enemy has stolen. Victory is possible. I realize it won't be in our own strength and not by our own devices, but by the Spirit of God alive in each and every one of us. But you and I must choose to fight according to God's strategic plan. For far too long, we've listened to the voices that do not align with godly kingdom principles, and we've allowed them to dictate how we should live, how we should raise our families, and even what we should say or not say. And in doing so, we've caved to the pressure to stay hidden, to stay tucked away inside the cozy, comfortable four walls of our church buildings, while all along we're losing valuable territory to evil forces. Truth is, you and I and the church at large is a storehouse full of power weaponry. The world we walk through daily is a war zone. But you and I have the ammunition to fight back if we would only choose not to remain hidden. With our eyes open, we will actually see the truth and will no longer be deceived. No longer will we allow politics or religion or racism or any other thing that causes division to cause us to back away. We are not victims of circumstances. We are godly women standing in the gap for truth and righteousness. Enough is enough. Will you accept your marching orders to rise and step into your created greatness? Leaving behind all the limiting beliefs that have been holding you back, saying your voice doesn't matter, your opinion is not valuable. I want to encourage all of us to be strong in the Lord and in His mighty power. So how do we do this on an everyday basis? We go back to Ephesians chapter 6. Here's God's divine strategic plan. We put on the full armor of God so we can take our stand against the schemes of the enemy. We recognize that our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but it's against the rulers, authorities, and the powers of darkness. So when evil rises its ugly head in any circumstance, we're able to stand our ground. And after we've done everything we can do in our power, we stand unmovable, trusting in our faithful God and the truth of His word. We hold tight to the righteousness according to God's kingdom principles. And we choose to live in peace whenever it's in our control to do so. And above all, we use our faith as a shield because it actually has the power to extinguish the flaming arrows of the evil one. And most of all, let's not forget we have salvation protecting us. Salvation is eternal. We need not fear anything in this world. Prayer is our strongest weapon in all occasions. Together, you and I can become spiritual guards. As this battle intensifies, we are being called to the front lines. The fire of hatred and division will continue to spread unless we war against it by coming together. It starts with us. The world is crying out for help. So you, my friend, are being called to show up in the fullness of your created greatness every day. Why you? Because no one else can be you. You are uniquely powerful, regardless of what you've believed about yourself up to now. The truth is, you are more powerful than you think. As you align yourself with God's perspective about who you are, you will walk right into sustainable transformation. As we wrap up today's episode, let me leave you with a few steps you can take this week to live out what we've been talking about. First of all, refocus daily. Remind yourself each morning that God has not changed. Secondly, suit up spiritually. Go back to Ephesians 6 and pray through the armor of God. Put it on intentionally. Truth, righteousness, peace, faith, salvation, the word, and prayer. Thirdly, shift your perspective. When you feel overwhelmed by the chaos around you, pause and ask, has everything really changed? Then anchor yourself in the eternal truth that God is still on his throne. Fourth, stand in your place of influence. Identify one area, your family, workplace, or your community, where you can actively push back against fear and shine the light of Christ this week. And lastly, pray with authority. Don't just pray for protection. Pray with boldness that God's kingdom will advance in your home, in your city, and in your nation. If today's message feels like a lot, don't let that hold you back. Take one step forward. Join me inside my coaching program where we can walk this out together. The link is in the show notes. You are not powerless. You are a warrior equipped for victory. Nothing has really changed. God is still God. And you, my friend, are chosen, you are loved, and you are amazing by design.